Here we go.
Ready to go? All right. So this is about maybe a little story about our upgrade to Traffic Monitor 2.2. I'm going to wait till the end to show you the results, but at least that's an attempt. So
by Traffic Monitor 2.2, you mean the Go?
The Golang version.
Java to Go?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's Cisco? You guys still on Java?
Well, you better pay attention.
And I'm sure I'm not listing everything here, but maybe I just want to bring some stuff to your attention. I know I've already talked to Rob about some of these things, but I'd just like to. I did a little inventory earlier about mixed version that we might be running in production. You guys should take a look at this, and it's pretty ugly. So we're running 2.2 on ops and portal and ORT, but they're different versions. And stats, router, and monitor are also running on 2.1, but different version as well. So just to show like backward compatibility thing might just work just fine, at least between those versions. So there's a plan to bring this up to at least close to the release candidate, but it looks like it's not been pushed yet. It looks like probably ops and portals is the closest to at least a GA, or obviously a GA at some point to 2.2. But we had to do this upgrade to 2.2 on ops and portal at least to support the Olympics in February.
I think the delicate point is exactly when you have the screen the CR config that move you from the management world to the database world.
Yeah, possibly, but everything works fine with all these versions.
You need to be careful.
Yeah. I mean, these versions have been tested in the lab before, so we kind of know that this is all compatible. So that's just a little history of where we're at right now. So we found a few things with Traffic Monitor Golang. This might not impact, really production as much. I think there's just things to be aware of. We've got this health and the stat time because they're now separated. We have some case of bandwidth not updating in Traffic Monitor, which kind of, if you go in admin down and you want to put a cache back up, but then you see no bandwidth, you might kind of freaked out a little bit. It's like, what's going on? And then also something related to the CPU usage.
And I would say just real quick, so the bandwidth not updating,
Yeah.
that's a rollover issue, and that's
Yeah.
a bug. We need to fix that.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if it's an issue yet in there, but
We haven't seen it. I don't know if Steve made an issue.
yes.
Crash. Did you make an issue?
Oh yeah, that's not a biggie. I didn't mention it, did I?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Hey Steve, can you minimize that?
Oh, is this thing in there? Sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
Does that stay there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So this one got a little surprised. So in my lab, I've been fighting an issue with these Intel X710 cards. They're like the 4x10 gig for a while. We've been deploying these things in production. They've been working fine, but in the lab they would just not work, which is kind of weird. Should be the inverse, right? But and then I knew that we had some issues, latency issues. Even if Traffic Monitor was on the same network as my caches, it would show like close to like 47 milliseconds to pull the stats, and I know that was abnormal. So one thing that's new in TM Golang is that they're doing stat polls and health polls. And somehow I was expecting higher values for the health polls, the stat polls, but it wasn't with the new version. I ended up finding out that the response time is due to the response time is a bit quicker than it was before, but it's not because you received the body. It was because it initiated a request and the chunk came back. So you just got the 200 OK, right? But the body was not downloaded yet.
In Java, we waited for the whole body, and in Go, we waited for the status to come back.
Exactly. So that created a little issue in the lab because I'm like, well, my cache are fine now. Like, I'm going to put some bandwidth on it.
The
And
first problem is you have a lab and you do testing.
yeah, I know. So, well, we were actually supposed to go to production with this thing, but then, it hit the lab and, that's what happened. But, I guess I talked to Rob a little bit about this, and then we found out about the chunk thing. And I've been trying to fix it, and I've been unsuccessful about it. Anyway, so the health poll is only pulling the system information, I believe, from AStats. And that one should be quick because it's fairly, the response is fairly small, right? And the stat poll should have all the delivery service, so it should take a little bit longer and should indicate into some issues. So just to be aware, since the response, I believe, is not more than 1,500 bytes, like the monitor might not tell you if your MTUs are fairly large in the network. Monitor might not tell you if there's MTU issues, something, or issues in the network that could be maybe increasing the latency on your cache. So hopefully we can fix this part to maybe actually bring it back to what it was before. And I'm sure in production, do you guys like this? The latency went down for all the caches after you guys upgraded to Golang, or and you thought like, well, it must be just polling faster?
I don't
No.
recall seeing that.
Yeah. So it does change about like probably 20 milliseconds or so. Yeah. And it's probably just because I was running a Java 1 and a Golang at the same time, and I saw, well, they're not the same, right? So that's one thing we saw. And the next one, jeez. Now I'm pressing enter on the window. All right, cool. And one thing we noticed too is that when we were actually doing maintenance on the cache, we would put an admin down, and if we reboot the server, we would come back, and we would still be pushing bandwidth to it. But you can see like the connection count here is like 4,000 something, right? But there's actually zero bandwidth. And there's an issue out there that's been indicated already. And apparently, if the bytes counter that comes that was cached previously is higher than the one that just came back, then it won't take that value.
Yeah, that's definitely a bug. So what it
That's a-
should
yeah.
do
What
is it should
happens when the
say,
counter rolls?
I think
right,
of
so
it-
when it rolls, it should say it's less than, I'm
Yeah.
not accepting this one, and then the very next one should be fine.
Yeah,
But
I
if
think
it's
of the
not,
code where that is. I remember that.
well, I know what the code is.
Yeah, I did.
Why wouldn't this be the same case?
I
I
don't
don't
know,
know.
we haven't seen this issue, and I,
So here's what I was doing, like
I wonder
before.
if it's because you didn't get anything
Yeah.
for a number of polls, so maybe there's something in there.
So I'm doing performance testing in the lab, and I'm sending like
Come on, bring up the debugger, let's debug it right
Yeah.
now.
Oh, I've got it. All right. So so we're doing performance testing in the lab. I was sending like 30 gigabit per second to that server, right? Like VOD content. And I guess after a week, then I did some changes and I wanted to reboot it and clear the cache. And when it came back, it's like, well, there's nothing coming up. But it would take another week to come back to it or something. So
Did you make an issue on that?
I don't think I've got an issue yet on it. But it's going to happen today if there's not.
Yeah, you better put that on.
No, the Java version doesn't have this issue now. Or at least we never saw it before. And I mean, this could create some condition, with traffic router, traffic monitor, where, a cache might be overloaded in bandwidth, but it's not being reflected.
Yeah, that's a nasty one, we need to get an issue on that.
Yeah. Anyway, the line is here, right? So I don't know if you guys can see it pretty good, right on the crossbar there. Just look at the other screen, but it's pretty clear on what it
well,
is.
should give that warning, you should always give that warning.
Yeah. It's
Falls in the forest, though.
yeah. If the warning would actually be on the UI, we would see it, but then since it's not I guess a bad event, right? I think it shows up in the info log or something like this. Then I guess some saw this on the forum before, but we observe a slight increase in CPU usage with the new version. So that's what it looks like.
Yeah, but just on the one though.
Huh?
Just on the one though, it's fine.
Yeah. So, but it was probably the only one that was upgraded too.
If you average it out, it's less than 100%.
Yeah, if we run one monitor Golang and the Java one, and we do average, it's not too bad. Yeah. But yeah, we kind of took it out of production right away once we saw that. So I didn't see this problem in my lab. It's probably because I don't have that many delivery service. Maybe I don't have as many caches, right? I did see a slight increase in the lab, but not that much. So once we push this in production, and we have probably like close to 150 servers, I guess, we saw that like, came up pretty quick. So,
The ramp up is the point of upgrade.
sorry?
The ramp up there is when you upgrade it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This one right here, if there's a mouse over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as we brought it up, it was actually like in an admin down state, right?
Okay.
But as soon as we brought it up, then
Yeah.
we saw this.
Yeah, so if
CPU
you'd
user.
like, I can say a few things about that.
Yeah. Go ahead. I was expecting that.
For those that don't know, I essentially wrote most of it. So we're aware of that at Comcast. So the good news is it scales pretty well. So it's not 3 times the CPU usage. So for example, our CPUs are, I want to say they're 12 cores, and we saw it go from like 8 or 900% to like 1100 on 12 cores. So or maybe it's 16, but it's not 3 times. You know, we didn't see it go from 900 to 2700% of all of our cores. The other thing is,
We resized all of our traffic monitors.
We did.
We were running out of memory on the same ones that were running Java, so it was more than twice.
well, that's memory.
I think this is about 100 times here. That's about 100 times here, though.
But so we've done profiling. We would like to fix it at Comcast, and if anybody else wants to do that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But we just haven't had the resources to assign to it. But we've done profiling, and the big things we've seen with profiling are hash map allocations and JSON. So we think a lot of it is probably the JSON. Those JSON libraries are notoriously slow. They do reflection. They're like on par with Python. It's terribly slow. So we can write a custom parser. That's an option. We could plug in a third party. There are third-party libraries that drop in and are doing a lot of stuff at compile time. So you're doing code gen.
Did you guys ever check?
Right, so that's another option. So another option is to change the protocol. We could do protobuf instead of JSON or CSV. Honestly, I think CSV would get us 90% there, 95% there, because we can compress it, we can gzip it, and it's easy to write a custom CSV parser, or even if we don't, it's still much easier to parse than JSON.
Then you can read it into an Excel.
Yeah.
So that's the big one.
And full circle. Managing the CDN with Excel.
But all of the key
So-
stats are key value. Like it's only one big giant thing, and then it's strings. Which is why it would also be easy to write a custom parser, because it's not a complex JSON object.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, if you get, any of you guys did the baseline comparison between the Java division and the Go to start with? I mean, this is more CPU bound, is more memory bound, what are the
Just keep
differences?
it.
So we have,
But the one thing that we're not talking about is the fact that this version of traffic monitoring does a crap load more work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking
I mean,
Well,
so,
that's
Yeah.
why I was having a conversation. So.
well, that's what I'm saying, is we're talking about this like these are two like things and they're not. That's fundamentally different.
And I know we.
That's not what this picture shows. This picture shows.
The picture
Go
doesn't have
fighters.
the context to show
Yeah.
you that there's a lot, I mean, it is telling you it is doing a lot more work by the fact that it is using a lot more CPU.
so the
I know where you're at though, because I argued with Rob about this. And I
Yeah.
think we're
We
somewhere,
haven't switched,
yeah, I think we're somewhere in the middle. I think that there is room for improvement. I think some of the things that he was saying in terms of maybe changing out the format or changing out the JSON library that you're using, or even some means upgrading to another version of Golang. Those are all things we can do to make this perform better just on the surface. Secondarily, we can take a look at the implementation to find out if we've got some problems in the algorithms that need to be fixed. But that I'm not as confident about. But the fact that we're polling every cache every 2 seconds is a lot more work than what the Java version is.
This basically saying, this is the V12 engine, that burns a lot more gas than your V4.
So
Right.
that's part of
But
it.
you can
But it's
go,
also, it's also
you can go a lot faster around the
That's
stack.
right, yeah.
So
And you're speaking my language, talking about engines.
So the other consideration with this is that, like, when I wrote this, CPU was not a goal, right? The goal was to pull as fast as we can. So
Yes.
anytime you're doing parallel processing, you can make trade-offs where you do more work in parallel that uses more CPU, but it's faster because it's in parallel. And so every time faced with one of those trade-offs, I would opt to use more CPU and make it faster. So that's another consideration. Like the old Java stuff was all polling in lockstep. So the Go is not in lockstep. There's a single polar Go routine, a microthread, for every single cache. And that's going to take more CPU to maintain all of that, but again, hopefully it's a little bit faster.
The only potential counter I have to that is if you're running in the cloud and you're getting billed based on CPU usage.
So this is a little bit where we kind of got caught off guard, right? And we went to production with this and like, whoa, what's going on, right? But the issue is like, yeah, we're going to need to resize where we're actually running our traffic monitors and all that kind of stuff. And maybe instead of running 4, we're going to run 3 or 2. I don't know. So
Yeah. But we don't pay for our cloud. I mean, is that something that people in our community are doing right now?
So you guys don't get alerts from your monitor nodes because the CPU is spiking?
Well, like Newman said, we did, and we argued, Rob and a bunch of other people, we got into a room and argued this all out, and what we ended up doing was increasing the size of our teams that ran this stuff. So for us, we were trying to get more granularity and quicker reaction time to issues that occur in the field, and the trade-off was to accept the additional CPU utilization. You know, it's something that we didn't love. I don't think
Yeah.
we came out of those discussions saying, "Gee, I feel good about this," but it is what it is.
I mean,
It's a
I'm-
necessary
So
evil.
going forward, like if you have that concern, you know, if you're trying to run this in the cloud, get with me, Slack me, or Slack me on this, and I can show you the points in the code where you could work to optimize this. So there's a polar object that you could change to be in lockstep and be a single go between, and then there's the thing that does the aggregation. You'd essentially be getting rid of that because you don't need to aggregate. You're polling in lockstep. So you
Okay.
probably want to still keep that just to minimize the code changes.
Yeah.
You'd have the aggregator lockstep itself with the other. So I can point you to some places.
All right.
Does everybody understand what he means when he's saying lockstep? Unless you know the internals of traffic monitor, you may not be.
Yeah, not exactly.
So traffic monitor, the Java version, it was basically, it would start at like 0, and then it would fire up all these threads to go pull everything, and then everything would come back, it would all get processed, and if there was a delta there between 0 and 8 seconds, which is what we had configured for, it would just wait. And then once the next time kicks off, then that whole process starts all over again. In the Golang version, it's not like that at all. Everything kind of is on its own schedule and its own Go routine and all of that, which is, like Rob said, that's why there's so much more
Yeah.
overhead.
Do we
Yeah, and so again, if you were trying to do this today, so short term, the short term answer is you could actually turn off the help poll, right? You could turn that off or turn it.
And you have the same functionality that you have in Java.
And you would have the same
Okay.
functionality today. It would be doing less work.
Okay.
You could do a
But
drop-in
you
JSON
wouldn't,
library.
you still would, I don't think would see comparables.
You would,
Yeah.
you would
We're
still
not-
do more.
I mean, we're not very heavily doing this in the cloud right now, but we do have a couple deployments. We do have a couple of setups in public.
Yeah, but are they sizable though? Do you have like 4 caches or 100? I mean,
Oh, like small.
yeah, it's not gonna go that high. Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
small
you're not
right
gonna
now.
see it. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta go to 1,000.
No, we're nowhere near that.
Unlike other components, traffic monitor cannot scale out. It's not localized. You cannot load balance between traffic monitors. Traffic monitors all caches.
And that is part of our long-term plan. We need to make monitor poll
Yeah.
cache groups.
It's a
Medium
little
term.
localized.
I would say
You
medium
must
term.
localize.
We've been
Yes.
talking about that, just on the Comcast side, like if we wanted to do this, what do we think would make sense? I mean, obviously, if we were gonna make some massive change like that to traffic monitor, we'd have to do that through the community, but we've talked about a couple different ways to do that, so, I think if we, because from what I gather, we have the biggest deployment, if it seems like we want to go that route, because we need to, because of the deployment size, because we're running into scale issues, then, we'll obviously have to communicate that, get everybody's agreement and stuff, but I think we might be kind of leading the way through the rainforest here with the machete.
Yeah,
So-
I think it's localization of monitor, in Java, localization of monitor.
Yeah.
Yeah, we agree.
Yeah.
Not just localization, but whatever you localize, you want geographic disparity. So you want a monitor near the cache group polling, and you also want one like on the other seaboard, so that if there's a network issue, on the other side of the nation, you'll still get that on.
Right, the traffic monitoring process isn't latency or distance, it's not affected by that. I mean, it is because it can affect your overall ability to collect all of the metrics, but in terms of just like, it's not a finicky video player or something, so it doesn't have to be co-located right next to
Yeah.
the infrastructure.
I mean, we use traffic monitor to know if there's network issues a lot of times. So
But again, if CPU is an issue for anybody today, the big things you could do are, again, turn off the health poll, turn the stat poll down to something you're happy with. You go in, I think you'd have to change code, but there's a hard-coded number for how frequently you aggregate. You can lower that, and then again, if you just Google Golang JSON generating, you can find libraries that will generate a more performant JSON library that is a drop-in replacement. And so you could Google that and drop it in, and it shouldn't take you more than a couple hours.
What do we think about changing serialization out of A stats and doing?
I'm 100%. I would love to see that with CSV.
Anybody else have any opinions about
I
that?
think the best way we could do that, so we could make A stats able to return CSV, based on the accept header.
Yeah.
So it would still work as it always did today, unless the client sent an accept header, which a new monitor would do. And then they would get
You're listening, Evan?
I think talked about this.
Yeah, we talked about
Instead of the health monitor, the heart rate, there's many things, a lot of things that we are not using. You take the entire,
Yeah, we don't need all of ProcNet data.
Yeah.
you can really minimize it.
Yeah, I mean, A-stats, I think, just in general, need some love. I mean, I
So,
know there's
so
not
we, yeah,
fantastic-
we wanna go to HTTP or stats over HTTP, we wanna see if we can, you know, do the right thing there. Maybe do an accept encoding there and then move to a serialization that's faster and sort of solve that problem there. Seems like a fun project for somebody.
Yeah, and it takes some work in A-stats, but in Grove, that I'll be talking about at 9 a.m. tomorrow.
There you go.
it's really easy.
All right, we're gonna move to the next one. I mean, you know, I think there's a lot to think about here, right? So, and because somebody was really interested in the crash, I didn't say, but don't worry, this is something I inflicted ourselves, you know. So you can see at the bottom here, there's like a little crash here, like it says error parsing procnet dev, right?
You didn't give it the override bond 0.
No, I did. Hold on, I'm getting there. It's like, you know, somehow I've got this thing before it crashed. I don't know if it's related or not. This thing, but wait a second. So I was running Docker on my edge caches, so I was running Docker on my edge caches, and I started a bunch of like you know, clients, and once I reached above like 20.
I thought you ran LXC.
No, that was Docker. So you know, and so what happened is that the procnet dev became so big that the ATS client, you know, obviously could not get it. So it returned an empty. It didn't have the procnet dev at all.
So about ATS needing some love.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we have seen similar issue.
Really?
When we started to work on
Evan, are you
Yeah.
listening?
Yeah. Well, there was some other issues, right? There's CentOS 7 before.
Similar issue when we first tried to use to use traffic control, and we put ATS on virtual machine.
Yeah.
And the procnet dev didn't return
It was just returning zeros, but it was there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a different issue. This one was handled. But this one here, I can just increase the buffer to 1 megabyte. That'll be fine, right? Done?
So why did that cause the monitor to crash?
Because it didn't come back with any values, and somehow, after a while, it just crashed.
Oh,
So
you know what? I think we fixed this. So I
Yeah.
think the bug you're seeing is that the default Go HTTP client has no timeout. And so if it doesn't return from ATS,
like that? I don't know if that's related.
probably
HTTP transport go crash.
Yeah, that was the best time out of there.
there's a good chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming out of the dock.
But anyway, I'll file an issue about this just because. But
We can verify.
yeah, and then once I removed Docker from there, or I limited it to like 16 instance, then it was fine. So it ran for weeks and it was just good. So, but that's just like one thing. So I said we, at least I, you know. So we'd like to get these health metrics fixed, right? For how long it takes to download, so it actually reflects what's going on in the network. Decrease CPU usage. I think everybody would like to see this, depending, right? I know Phil in the forum said, well, let's try Go 110. I think Hank tried this, and it kind of reduced it by 5 to 7% overall. I think it was like a 30%, so, you know, like a third of a CPU reduction on it, but that was not enough.
Next slide's gonna be fun.
What? Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. So, and what's this one? So, change, remove, byte compare for bandwidth. I don't know what that, oh, yeah. That's the one where we don't report any bandwidth. Something I came across is like when traffic monitor crashes, it doesn't come back up, right? So there's no respond, there's nothing, that's it, I guess. But
System D.
Yeah, system D should take care of that, right?
yeah, probably like that, you know. But if we actually go to Docker, I mean, Docker can handle it too.
I
So,
mean, I don't think we're gonna want to build assumptions into Docker
Yeah.
necessarily. I mean, I
And
think Docker is gonna be a good tool for us to use to make.
we also don't have to build everything that Rob likes or doesn't like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't like system D. That's the right answer.
We're on
We
CentOS
should-
7 if that's what we
it's-
support.
There's
so.
just, it's like a flag in the
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's going to create issues with other distribution. Are we using initd just because we like it, or?
No, just because it was easy.
Okay, all right.
related.
System D is pretty easy. I mean, I can replace it on my server with Ansible. It's just like a template file.
You know
That's
what'd be
easy.
cool is if you could do a system D init file and then spit a PR.
All right. Note it somewhere.
That said, if we wanted to keep it at the, like if we wanted that
Yeah.
compatibility with the Linux standard base standard or whatever.
Yeah.
For 10.6, we could do it with the cron job. I mean, that's the standard accepted practice for NFD is the init script will make the cron job.
Is there like a respawn line you can put somewhere?
Maybe.
For an automatic
One of
respawn?
those. Yeah, one of those probably.
Yeah. Okay. And that's one thing there. Then I've got this one here that's been there for a while. This I think we actually have an issue about this, right? Monitor if traffic server caching is disabled. We had some issues where we upgraded some cache and people didn't do the right verification. And traffic server has been online for a week and it's not been caching. You know.
But do you think that traffic monitor should be monitoring that?
Yeah, I
Because I
think-
think traffic monitor really sort of monitors the
Well, it monitors the bandwidth. It monitors the load average.
Yeah.
I mean, it should know that caching is actually disabled.
No, I think fundamentally that's a different function in my end.
But why not just put a stat? Why not put it in A stats as this is A stat is a caching?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
There's actually a field in there that tells you when it's been initialized, the
Right, and then
cache.
you can make a parameter that marks it healthy or unhealthy based on, just like you do with bandwidth, you would have, if caching is disabled, it's
Yeah.
greater than
Yeah,
one.
but if you will not be caching.
You just
won't-
advocated for parameters, holy cow!
Yeah,
That's
but
how
if
it
you
was. I don't like it.
Everybody just let that simmer for a minute.
Steve, what happens if it's not caching?
What happens if it's not caching? Everything still works. It's just going to be slow.
But it will be down.
Huh?
You won't redirect.
No. No, all is good.
If you map,
It should be configurable
No,
with Rob's
everything-
parameter.
Yeah.
I don't agree with the
Plus
statement.
one, plus one.
I don't agree with the statement that everything works, Steve,
Too late,
because
we committed
it
it.
doesn't work because you're killing the origin, and one of the primary functions of CDN is not to kill the origin.
I know, but it killed the mid caches in that time, so it didn't kill the origin. But
It's up to the parameter.
Yeah.
We're gonna
Yeah,
go with Rob's
I
parameter.
think the rock parameter's right.
Yeah.
actually happened.
but
I would argue in this
will
particular
it
case,
get
they don't.
back?
And they should.
And they should,
If the
yeah.
cache-
And
I
so
would say your CDN is seriously
If
broken.
you would include something, so you would say, have the arbitrary ability to
The
specify a
guy who's
parameter
operating
that
it may
maps
not have the
to
technical
a
expertise
key
to be
in the
implementing
A
code.
stats
Which is why I
data,
think
and then to say that this key is going to be actionable now.
yes. So do we have this in a new monitor?
Caching enabled is actually a standard stats in ITS.
Okay.
Is it? I'm asking.
Oh, I don't think so.
I don't think
It's-
so either, and that's why I was sort of balking at putting it in.
Hey, there's a stat for
Evan?
cache hits,
You
right?
making
How would it
notes?
be to put the cache enabled flag in ASATs? You have that exposed.
Isn't there a counter for cache hits? Like,
Yes.
And
Well-
Yeah, but then you gotta compare it with what you think the
Yeah.
status
No,
is
that
on
doesn't work
profiles.
because it's gonna be 0 when it starts up, because it never gets served.
Yeah.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't think it's as simple as that.
There's a field, and I've got a GitHub issue about it. I just don't know how, if the current traffic monitor can actually trigger based on any field, right? So we can't. All right. So maybe that's the issue. Like we'll be able to trigger on anything we want in
That's the
A
rock
stats.
parameter that we gotta create our
Yeah.
generic way to do that.
Perfect. Okay.
We're never gonna let this go, Rob.
Can you find this issue and assign it to Rob?
I believe in getting.
5 years from now, it's gonna be like, oh yeah, Rob's reinvented all these parameters.
So putting this one down here says load average versus CPU usage or whatever we want, like I/O disk usage or something. Currently, we can actually, I believe, only use load average.
Yeah, so,
And I'm sure you've seen this before. That's an idle system. And the load average is up to 20.
and I've made this argument before internally at Comcast, I don't think we should be pulling the monitor based on the load average, because it is a nebulous field, it doesn't have any real meaning. I think we should break that out into CPU, disk, and network, and separately do health on all 3 of those.
You heard that?
Disk I/O
I think
specifically, per disk or aggregate.
However
Aggregate.
you want, aggregate, IO weight, IO weight is important separately. I think we
You're
should.
describing all of the things that go into load average.
Right, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
So when multi-cache unavailable because load average, we don't know why. That's the
So,
Right,
No,
that's
but
what we have
no,
SRE.
That's why then you go through that box. Yeah, you go through that box and you see what's going on.
But I think the cache should be the one to calculate the total load area. It's not the monitor.
but the cache doesn't.
The cache should know what can if it can get more traffic or not. The
there's a lot of internal. You don't want to start configure the different profiles to okay those kind of caches for have this ability or other.
Yeah, and then the next thing you're gonna say, you should be able to say that by delivery service.
But
If your disks are really busy, you should still be able to take,
linear, right?
Yeah. Patch is welcome, brother.
No, I mean, I think both what Nir and Robert are saying is right. Load average is an aggregate value, it's very crude. Anything we can do to work towards getting more granularity.
So here's the problem here. Load average is broken.
No, load average is actually.
It's broken.
Load average is misunderstood.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Alright, stop.
The line that does the load average calculation has a comment
Yeah.
in the Linux source code.
Yes.
It says something along the lines of, I wrote this and it's stupid and we
Yes.
shouldn't be doing it. Like the guy
There's something there.
says,
So remove traffic server from this.
Even the guy
And
who
it-
wrote
it's
it
fine.
doesn't understand it. That doesn't mean it's wrong.
We've seen that.
Yeah. Everybody running CentOS 7 is seeing it.
CentOS 7, yeah.
The people that denied it in the past actually know that it's happening. So remove traffic server or stop it. This is gonna go away.
Yeah.
It has to do with traffic server waking up in all the timers. And that's it.
oh, this is on startup of ATS.
No. It's just run ATS on the server somewhere. Anything like CentOS 7 and above, and you'll see this problem.
Always. I have it too.
But as soon as you put load on it, it goes down.
Yeah.
So load average is not broken.
It's completely harmless as far as I can
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah, exactly.
It's harmless except the traffic monitor triggers on it.
Fortunately, we're
yes.
constantly hitting the caches with ASTAT.
So my conclusion would be though that we want to make it more flexible and we want to add some other things into
Yeah.
taking caches out of the rotation,
But yeah,
right?
I'd rather use.
While on the subject,
Yeah.
Jeff and I have talked about, something else we would like to see in the monitor is instead of a boolean available or unavailable, we could have some kind of number, and maybe we add that as an addition to the API to start, and then in the future the router can look at that number to decide, this cache is, say it's 0 to 100, this cache is 60, and this cache is 80,
And
and so
that
I'm gonna
would
route
kind
that.
of
Could
be
be.
more like near self-evaluation. The cache does a self-evaluation and it
Well, this
knows.
would be calculated at line. We could do
I think-
self-evaluation.
I think maybe the cache reports. Hey, I think.
But the general idea is that we can prioritize monitors to kind of load balance. This thing isn't. We're not just going to take it out.
Yeah.
We're going to reduce the traffic to this one and increase the other one.
South would be good just because each cache would know these are my resources versus what I'm doing, not just.
See, my concern is that sometimes the cache knows more, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the cache is wrong. It's better to have an external.
I'd like to be able to control calculation for sure. I mean, we can control the thresholds today. I mean, should be about the same thing. So, but anyway, that's just to show a few things, and that's about it. So,
Thanks, Steve.
So you're in production now with Golang and all.
oh, sorry, that was the last slide I forgot to put in there. No, we're not in production with Traffic Monitor 2.2. So we need to just evaluate the impact on our system to run this, and I mean, if you guys are running 1100 on 12 core processors, I mean, looks like you guys are tapped, right?
Yeah, so we have a total of what, 1,600 caches or something?
But
probably.
Yeah.
But
It's
that's
split
across two
two
CDNs.
CDNs, so
Yeah.
one is a little bit bigger. That sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah. So
And we're planning on adding a.
sharded traffic monitor, you know.
So we'll be working on that one way or the other. So thank you.
All right.
So.
Oh, not that.